Welcome back. You're still watching SA Today. Now, the United Nations World Food Programme will be launching a Zimbabwe humanitarian appeal this afternoon. They're expected to ask the international community to help the country avert a crisis after the country was hit by a severe drought that left millions hungry and a cyclone in the eastern parts of the country earlier this year. For more on this story, I'm now joined by the spokesperson for the World Food Programme in South Africa, Gerald Bourke. Hello, Mr. Bourke. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. Just how serious is the problem in Zimbabwe?
My pleasure. Happy to be with you. Just one small correction, if I may. The appeal is being launched by the United Nations community and also by the Zimbabwean government, not just by the World Food Programme.
Right.
But yes, it is a very serious crisis. It's one of the worst hunger crises to hit Zimbabwe. We have millions and millions of people who are food insecure. By the end of this year, we expect 5.5 million Zimbabweans living in rural areas to have reached crisis or emergency food insecurity, and of course there are large numbers of people in the cities in Zimbabwe, notably Harare and Bulawayo, who are also experiencing severe food insecurity. Assessments to determine urban food insecurity in Zimbabwe are presently underway, and the results will be out within a few weeks. But all told, an extremely serious crisis.
Now, 5.5 million people, that's about half the country's population.
Yes, indeed. It is a food crisis. It is caused, as you know, by severe drought. Of course, Zimbabwe was also hit by Cyclone Idai in mid-March, and there is, as many people are well aware, a major economic crisis too. So it's a combination of factors. It's kind of a perfect storm, and the expectation is that things will get worse before they get better.
So what kind of food aid is required, actually? Is it just food or other things required?
Well, the crisis is also a fuel crisis. It's an electricity crisis. Inflation is rampant. Joblessness, which was already very high, is rising rapidly because businesses are closing, and there is little in the way of opportunity in terms of farm employment. So it's a multifaceted crisis that requires a multifaceted response.
So I notice here that the country's Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare Minister, Sekai Nzenza, says that about 190,000 metric tons of maize had been distributed to households in rural and urban areas. This is the first time, if I'm not mistaken, that food aid in the cities has been afforded to people. That's how serious this problem is.
Yeah, as I say, the presumption is, the awareness is that hunger in the cities is a very serious problem. As you say, the government has already distributed some food in urban areas. The World Food Programme has a pilot program here in Harare. The expectation is that once the assessments I mentioned earlier are in, that we and others will need to do more in the cities. So urban hunger is high and rising.
So is there any other way to explain the situation? Because, countries go through droughts. There are contingency plans years in advance for many countries so that when droughts and adverse weather comes through, that they can do things. Is it just drought that's been a problem in Zimbabwe that's caused this situation?
Well, on the drought front, as people living in southern Africa are well aware, climate change is already a considerable problem, and that problem is going to get worse. So the frequency and severity of things like droughts and cyclones is going to increase. Zimbabwe and the rest of southern Africa, in terms of agriculture, has had just one normal rainy season in the last 5 growing seasons. That's an indication of how bad things have become, and it's also indicative of how bad things are going to be in the future. So drought is a major problem, but as I say, in Zimbabwe's case, it's also a very major economic crisis.
How much money do you think you need to raise to get people through to the next planting season?
Well, the appeal that's being launched this afternoon is for $331 million. And the World Food Programme's part of that is over 50%. We're looking for $173 million. But as I say, that is essentially for the rural areas. The assessments for the urban areas have yet to come in, so the price tag will likely rise.
All right, Mr. Bourke, we're going to have to leave it there, and we certainly wish you and the people of Zimbabwe the best in terms of a way forward. Thanks so much indeed for your time.